Hello again, my dear viewers. March 28th is coming to an end, and in today's review, I want to look at events on the front lines of the Ukrainian war from a slightly different angle. That is, not just to describe the events, but to try to put it all together into a coherent, logical chain. Why this is happening, and why one side or the other is trying to time this or that action in a particular manner. On the Russian side, everything is in fact very clear and straightforward. Russian troops, they have clearly outlined their objectives and they are destroying the armed forces of Ukraine today. They are in no hurry to take control of the Ukrainian territories. And referring to the information I outlined in the previous video, I think it is now clear why. Because until the structure of the civil military administration is in place, until it is fine-tuned, to take control of a huge major city is, as they say, to shoot yourself in the foot. It is clear that the initial plan was somewhat different, and on the whole, the Russian leadership was wrong in its expectations. But now, based on the situation as it is, no mistake should be made. I think this is one of the reasons why nobody is going to take big cities under their control in a time frame of a few weeks, because the structure of civil military administration has to be created, which will start to work normally in Kherson region, in Zaporizhia region. I think in the end it will work in Chernihiv region as well, and then this experience will be applied in managing the rest of the liberated territories. But there is no need to create this entire structure in Donbass. These structures were already created 7 years ago, and they are called the Donetsk People's Republic and the Luhansk People's Republic, which, having taken control of their territories, will quickly restore order. And at the same time, the main forces of the Ukrainian armed forces are concentrated here, so the logic of the Russian side is clear. Now let's try to understand the latest developments on the part of the Ukrainian government. Things are bad for them, while the Ukrainian armed forces are rapidly losing their combat effectiveness. The political leadership has already outlined the main problems in the coming days. It is Mariupol, and in the coming weeks, it is a cauldron in the Donbass region, which will be dismembered and destroyed sooner or later. These events need to be responded to somehow. It is for this reason that Kiev needed an urgent big victory, and since this victory could not be made up, and they tried to make it even for the fourth time today, the mayor of Irpin said that here Irpin had already been liberated from the Russian armed forces. When did they have time to liberate it? After all, by and large, Irpin has never been captured by the Russian armed forces. Now there's a front line along Irpin, and it is clear that there's no chance of victory. All the more, according to my information today, there was quite intensive artillery fire, including hail shells, somewhere to the north of Bishev, and it is clear that a serious operation of the Ukrainian armed forces in this region is out of the question. It is for this reason that the Ukrainian command has tied its main hope to the so-called strike on Kherson. Some Ukrainian politicians, including Governor Kim, were literally jumping out of their panties, telling them that Ukrainians, wait, soon we will have a big, meaningful victory. This operation was being prepared, as far as I know, for many days. The few reserves that they could wrest from the so-called Odessa garrison from units of the 28th Mechanized Brigade were secretly transferred to Stanislav. They moved to this mini bridgehead at night and prepared for an attack. The only thing they didn't know was that in all this movement were tightly controlled by the Russian intelligence service, which in time uncovered all these movements and prepared to strike a powerful and irresistible blow. And as soon as these units were ready to attack, that is, emerged from their hiding places, they were instantly hit by all the power of Russian artillery available in this direction, which literally put all these troops in flight with just a few volleys. And then, as one of the participants in these events on the part of the AFU wrote, rooks appeared in the sky and finished off the fleeing columns of the so-called liberators of Kherson. A good job of reconnaissance, artillery strikes and airstrikes, literally textbook operation that resulted in, as Mykolaiv social media is buzzing today, all the local hospitals being filled with wounded. There's not enough blood for them, and Governor Kim got another disaster in the 79th Brigade barracks after the disaster, a disaster in the so-called liberation of Kherson, and if I were the Kiev leadership, I would replace this braggart as his comment is very bad. He has not and will not bring anything good to the Ukrainian armed forces. He is too much of a braggart, and as they used to say in the olden days, to not boast when you're facing the army, boast when you've defeated it. And this was in fact the only opportunity today for the political leadership of Ukraine to parry the negative effect that would be few days after the liberation of Mariupol, and then the disasters will be coming up one after another, and how they will parry it all, I don't really know. We shall see. They will have to do all this very soon, because if they don't, the population of Ukraine will stop believing in their unconditional victory, and if they stop believing, this whole structure, which has been created during many years under the name of Ukraine is not Russia, will start to collapse very fast. This is what the picture really looks like if you combine the fighting on the fronts of the Ukrainian war with the political component. That is exactly what I wanted to say today. Goodbye.